It's part 2 of our interview with Marvin Segel on the podcast, which is all about the world of marketing on television through TV shopping networks and infomercials. Are we on the air? I'm your host, Shawn, and for over 29 years, I've hosted shows on cable shopping networks generating billions of dollars in sales, and now I want to be your guide into this world, explaining how it works, why it works, what doesn't work, and introduce you to the people who are making it the success that it is today. Going back to the 1980s, QVC starts up, and they're rivaling HSN. You already mentioned the fact that, because nobody disclosed shipping and handling. That was something that was a foreign concept. But QVC came up with this thing called it was like the 3-point guarantee or something. Did it involve products being in stock or something? I mean, this was something no one else was doing.
So my father, which is kind of funny, my father would always shop at Sears for Craftsman tools. And the irony of that is my father has lousy hand-eye coordination. Which is another story with the airline, which we can get into a little bit. Anyhow, when he would go to buy something, if you remember the original Craftsman tool aisle or any hardware store, he'd pick up something that was on display and he'd say, "I'd like to buy this." The guy would walk back to the stock room, come back up, and he goes, "I'm sorry, we don't have that in stock." Well, that really pissed him off. And that created one of the first things about QVC is that items had to be in stock.
Right.
So that was number one kind of bylaw. The other bylaw was, and he used to hate this also, when he would buy something and then 2 days later it would go on sale. Oh. So that created the pricing strategy at QVC, which everybody else now does, which is there's a introductory price, and then the item goes up in value over time. So those were two fundamental principles. And he also did something that nobody does and no retailer does, and it drove everybody nuts. The QVC had its own quality assurance. They would test things. And before there was a QA department, and I don't know if you remember this, that QVC where the pie set was, the second floor had this like fire escape stairs.
Sure. And
every so often you'd hear this thing crashing down the steps. What was that? It was my father kicking a box down the steps. And then they would open the box up at the bottom of the step. And if nothing was broken, it passed QA.
Oh my gosh.
And that was before they had things such as a UPS shaking table, which would create the vibrations and bouncing around of being in a UPS truck. This was, he was way ahead of his time. And that was his way of doing a QA test to see if the packaging would hold up.
Your father was such an excellent businessman, consummate professional. But again, HSN, Bud Paxson, founder, loved to go on air, loved to pitch. Your dad was only on air, what, 2-3 times, couple times?
Because he sucked at it.
Oh, stop.
He had a love for bread makers. And so this, again, it's a classic thing if you can find it on the internet, where this hot loaf of bread comes out of the bread maker. And of course, everybody knows except him, you don't cut into it until after it's cool.
Oh,
and he cuts it live on TV, and the thing goes and shrinks down into like his little ever.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that just sounds like a wreck. I mean, wow. Hey, we'll continue in a second here. I want to play some audio quickly because I found a 1986 clip of QVC. And when they would take their breaks every hour, they would take a little break before they start the next show. At the time, they didn't have shows to promote. There were no special guest shows saying, hey, tune in for this. And so they ran a lot of, I think, very helpful and things that the shopping network should go back to doing. Just very basic, how to shop with us, little pieces of videotape. And I have one here about the QVC 3-point guarantee. So let's listen to this, and then we'll continue with Marvin.
For customer satisfaction, just check out the QVC 3-point guarantee. Number 1, QVC makes no substitutions. What you order is what you get. Number 2, your order will be shipped promptly. Normal delivery is just 5 to 10 days. And if you're not completely satisfied with any QVC purchase, you can return it within 30 days for a complete refund, including the shipping and handling charge. We're QVC, America's quality cable shopping channel.
When people think back now to these early days, because again, we still thinking about 1986 and 87 and 88, QVC today is the global leader in this. Let's face it. They're right behind Amazon and Walmart as far as e-commerce goes. I mean, they are global. But it was a struggle for QVC in those early days, wasn't it? Let's not kid ourselves.
No, QVC was always in the shadows of HSN. And it drove my father nuts that they were the number 4 channel. HSN was number 1. Value Vision out your way in Minnesota was number 2. And QVC made a rather bold move, and they made an offer to buy Value Vision. Well, or CVN back then, I'm sorry. CVN became Value Vision, excuse me. The name, it's had so many different names. And when the press release broke that QVC was buying CVN, people thought the press release was written backwards. It was impossible for number 4 to buy number 2.
Yeah. And
it actually, I mean, most people don't know this, QVC actually missed a couple loan payments.
Wow.
It was a struggle for them in those early times. Obviously, the rest is history, and they ended up doing really, really well. They leapfrogged ahead of HSN and now own HSN.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how it all worked out.
Were there any mistakes made in all that? Looking back, do you think your dad would say we should have done this differently?
He was always improving what he did. I think in some ways he overkilled things, my opinion. But no, I don't think he would say that he was very proud of QVC. When he got the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Electronic Retailing Association, he was truly very, very proud. And there's a great video that you can find online about it with testimonials from a lot of those old-time executives at QVC. And I would say that is his most proud achievement, QVC was. And I think it was done really, really well. I was proud when I did go on air with a pressure that was, I would say, higher than anybody from legal ever reviewing my show. I mean, a quick story. And again, there's so much stuff we can talk about. So the first time I was on air, it was with Dan and Pat on the morning show at Light Bites.
Oh, yes.
And there's another whole story with that. My father actually found them. No, he didn't find it. It was given to him when he was vacationing at a spa in Hawaii. And the PR person at the spa knew the creators of the product, gave it to my father and said, I think this would be good for QVC.
What is a Light Bite? Let's explain what a Light Bite is.
Light Bite, I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Light Bite was a bar that when you ate it before, I feel like I'm going to start doing the show again.
Yeah, go.
When you ate it about an hour before a meal, it helped you feel full. And it had a blend of vitamins and herbs and nutrients that really helped your body kind of feel full. Really, so you ate less later. That was the whole concept of a Light Bite bar. I mean, to tell you it was huge. I mean, it did about 10 million a year in the US and about 5 million a year in the UK. Absolutely an amazing product. I am still friendly with many of the success stories that were on air with me. And what I mean by that is I kind of did a little bit of a Richard Simmons, except I didn't wear little sequin shorts and a tank top.
Oh, thank God, Marv.
But I would bring people on with me for the anniversary show. And, you know, that was a great time with Light Bite. I go on air for the first time and I sell out with Pat and Dan on the morning show.
Right.
And it was the original pie set that spun around and the line producer was right in front of you.
Yep.
I stepped off the set. As I'm stepping off the set, the line producer hands me the phone and goes, "It's your dad."
No.
Wait a minute. I get on the phone. My father had a very gruff voice. And my father goes, "I'm Marvin's dad." I go, "Yes, Dad. Congratulations." I said, "Thanks, Dad." And this is classic. He goes, "I just want to let you know that they spelled your name wrong. You should ask them to fix it." Wait a minute. Shawn, wait a minute. You got to hear my response. I don't know how I had the guts to do this. I said, "Dad, it's your last name. It's your company. Fix it." And I hung up the phone.
God bless you. Oh, that's fantastic. For those that don't know, again, because you just made reference to the pie set, this was back before the studios that they're in right now that they moved into in, 97, 98, somewhere in there. And it was, their whole studio was basically just one turntable that was, divided into 3-4 sections.
Which was brilliant. And again, you have to watch the movie Joy and you'll see it. But basically, the 3 cameras, which most of the shoots are 3 cameras.
Right.
And the 3 cameras basically could stay in position and the set would rotate and lock into those 3 cameras. Think about the brilliance of that idea.
Yeah.
Right. And you'd be, you could set up on the back of the pie or one corner and they'd yell, rotate, and then it would pivot and it would come into the perfect shot for those 3 cameras. Now you think about it, there are 36 robotic cameras on the floor.
Wow.
Which is somewhat of overkill.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's working for them.
It would be equivalent to basically just, like a soap opera, bad example. There's not many soap operas left on TV, but it was like, because you had one set that was a living room, one set that was outdoors and all this. So it'd be like if they could just rotate the soap opera set around and shoot it with the same 3 cameras, but no, they can't. They have to have all those different setups. It really was a brilliant idea. QVC invented so much under your dad's watch. Like, for instance, every network now has some deal that they launch at midnight. It's their biggest deal of the day. Nobody had a TLV until QVC launched. Yep. Why is there a TLV?
The today's special value, and everybody calls it something different.
Today's special value
was done because they had a lot of one product, and they were like, what do we do with it? Well, we'll call this today's special. Well, when do we launch it? And I find that amazing, by the way, that they trained the consumer to stay up till midnight to see what that value was, which was insane when you think about it.
Yes.
And quite frankly, again, we'll get to this later. In the concept we're doing as we merge our companies together, I plan to do something on a Monday at 9 a.m. to counter-program the major shopping channels. Because I'm not going to make them stay up at night. I know Monday morning, they're getting the kids off, 9 o'clock. Here's the item. Boom, done.
No, I'm with you. I never understood that. People, I've always been an early bedtime person anyway, so that is just that's ridiculous to think that people are staying up that late, but they do. When we talked a lot about the QVC guests, because now, and when I started in the industry, you never had a guest. QVC started, you never had a guest. Now every show is guested. Is the guest more important than the host these days?
Really good question. I actually think, and this is where the shopping channels, in my opinion, haven't really pivoted yet. I think what's even more important than a guest is an influencer, which nobody's using in TV shopping. That's a big, and I don't know. I'm not saying they're going to go out of business, but I'm saying that they're really behind in terms of kind of embracing that whole concept. I mean, you pick a major beauty brand as an example. I would take the beauty brand and I would take the beauty owner and I put them off to the side. I would have the 2-shot, which for those that don't know, it's the host and the guest. I'd have the 2-shot be an influencer and the host, and the influencer would look into the camera and tell them why I recommend this product, why I use it, why my mom uses it, whatever the case is. That is what I would do. And what happens then is you automatically get the social media following of that person. And I will tell you, because, some will look me up and know that I almost tried to buy what was then known as Evine in the Midwest. And in my presentation to the investors, it was that my daughter has more social media followers than almost every show host in TV shopping.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which is saying something about my daughter, but also how the shopping channels really haven't embraced that really well.
And this goes into the whole, because this industry is 30 plus years old now.
and hasn't changed.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because how has it really changed other than it's not on a turntable anymore? You have guests with everything. Even graphically, you still have that basic L shape to the graphic. Everything's on the left, phone number on the bottom.
The product panel, right.
Yeah, I mean, what has changed over the past 30 plus years?
Yeah, the hairstyles.
Okay, good point. And or lack thereof in my case. Go ahead.
Really all that. If you look at the first show, which again you can find on YouTube, and you look at it today, it's still that same basic 2-shot type of setup. Back then it was the very first show had 2 hosts, but it's still that 2-shot. They haven't really. I mean, they did for a period of time, Shawn. They did some great stuff. They did live remotes. They don't do a lot of live remotes. And I'm not blaming the pandemic's a poor excuse. They stopped a while ago really doing a lot of that stuff. It really lost its entertainment value. I've seen guests recently do live remotes from Greece, as an example. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to embarrass anybody. But they were shot in their hotel room. Well, they could have been in the studio. It really wouldn't have mattered. And that's, people forget, and I'm going to keep saying this, and this is a question I get asked a lot, which is, how did QVC get so big? And the reasons it got so big, everybody forgot now, which is a shame.
When we look back at, again, because I agree completely with everything you just said, I mean, the industry is so much today what it was. One thing that we've started to see more of, especially as we talk about guests, is the celebrity guest. Now, is a celebrity guest a good thing or a bad thing?
Sort of in the category of an influencer.
Okay.
However, I think an influencer would be better. I mean, an influencer really has, in some cases, more followers than some celebrities do, number one. And an influencer, by what they do, can bring more eyeballs with them, just like a celebrity can. I remember, and my father was still chairman of the board at the time, when Jessica Simpson came on QVC with her sugar-based body lotion. And the concept was, and I'm not making this up, you could lick it off your significant other. Okay?
Of course.
I thought my father was going to have a heart attack. Okay, now they had, as I understood it, they bought enough product for about a 2-hour show. And in 20 minutes, they sold out of everything. So what did that prove? That proved that the proper celebrity / influencer can bring an audience that would not normally come to the channel for that. That's, to me, what I describe as the difference. If I'm walking down a mall with my wife, I'm being stereotypical for the moment, so forgive me. I'm probably going to, as we're walking down the mall, I'm probably going to walk toward the Apple store and go in there to see what's new. My wife is going to walk toward a shoe store. Okay. QVC is basically that virtual mall when every hour changes. That's what makes it, unique. But it really has not changed anymore. The influencer is not bringing in, because they're not using them. They're trying, but they're not really using them the way they should be, and bringing that audience with them. And the other thing, it's really interesting. I don't know if you ever thought about this. Think of the top 3 viral videos for the last couple of years, Shawn. None of them came from a true influencer. They didn't come from a Kardashian or anybody else. Think of the guy on the skateboard drinking the cranberry juice, right? It's a nobody. And that's what's interesting about today's world. That's what makes it such an interesting dynamic, what actually works and what really can explode at that point, whether it's a stupid cat video or whatever it is, that it's stuff like that really kind of grabs an audience and makes them tune in. And that's what's missing. I go back to the word games and the lucky number games. There's not a reason you're not going to be entertained. I used to love, I can't remember his name right now, from Boyd's Bears. I can't think of his name right now.
No idea.
But I used to watch Boyd's Bears. Why? Because he was hysterical. I mean, I used to call him the Howard Stern of QVC.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I remember him doing a show with Mary Beth Rowe, who's a borderline nun. And I'm saying that as a compliment.
I know her. I love her. Yes.
Right. And I remember a caller calling in, and I remember this like vividly in my brain. And Mary Beth says, I understand you're brand new to QVC. So, and again, I can't think of his name right now. He says, oh, you're a QVC virgin. Turns to Mary Beth and says, where did you lose your virginity? I thought she was going to fall off the chair.
No. Oh, bless her heart.
You know, but that was entertaining. You know, it was funny. You remembered it. That would have been a viral moment if there were viral moments back then.
Oh, that is so good. You know,
right.
It's the more I think about this, and again, I some of the things about your dad I still want to ask you about, but we're on this path here now, is because a few weeks ago, as we're recording this, was just a couple of weeks ago, Dolly Parton was on HSN and broke all the records for selling a fragrance, and God bless her for it. I love her. She's a talent. She's a celebrity endorsement of a fragrance, which people have always said is tough to sell on TV. Is the generation that's buying that just giving up on TV shopping? I don't know a 25-year-old who's gonna buy a Dolly Parton fragrance just because Dolly Parton's on TV selling it.
So that's a great question. After there was the hostile takeover of what was then Shop NBC, and my department got cut, it's a whole thing. I was still in Minneapolis for a little bit, and I was there having coffee with one of the TV sales managers. It's a great story that backs that up. And he was there with his girlfriend. And we're having coffee, and I'm talking about my vision for the future, which, by the way, is kind of still the same vision for where I'm going. And as we finish our coffee and we finish my concept, because I wanted him to work for me going forward, his girlfriend turns to me and holds her phone up. I'm going to grab my phone for a second. Holds her phone up and says, you know, Marvin, I think you're right, because I don't, and her boyfriend worked at the channel, said, I have never bought anything from a shopping channel, but I just bought this dress, pointing to a dress that an influencer was talking about.
See?
And that sums up exactly what you just talked about. That's where the difference now is.
When we look ahead 5 years, 10 years, because I mean, it's fact. I've heard this because people have said to me since the year 2000 with the internet. It's like, well, internet's here. People don't need TV shopping. It's going away. TV shopping was able to adapt. They were able to pivot a little bit. But now you have people cutting the cable. Now you have people who don't care at all about sitting in front of their TV watching it. So how does a QVC or an HSN adapt to that? Or do they? Or is it up to people like you to come up with the next idea?
I think that the nails are starting to be put in the coffin for what we're still calling TV shopping. Think about it. What size TV do you have in your home?
It's 60 some inch. I don't know.
Okay, fine. So, but you still refer to it as a TV.
Yeah.
Here's my point. It's not a TV. It's a computer monitor that you're feeding information over broadband, over the internet, to that TV.
Good point.
That's why it has the name Smart TV. I have not been connected to cable in probably 3 or 4 years. I receive everything over the internet using Apple TV and various other streaming services. And I believe that is the future. I also believe, and this is a big pivot, that the future is going to be based on what I'm calling content shopping. That you are watching content, and while you're watching the content, when you want to engage, you can say, gee, I really like Shawn's black t-shirt, and you can click on it, and in a sidebar along the side, it'll put information to buy that. I can also click on you. It'll say, like Shawn, follow Shawn. It can click on your watch. It can click on your ring. It can click on your headphones. But the consumer gets to engage when they want to. Meanwhile, and that would be the version of your podcast, you know, if I could snap my fingers, that everything you and I are doing right now, they can buy this this Pilot pen. I mean, everything would be available for sale. If I'm going to go backwards, and you remember this show, and I was ahead of my time then. You remember when I brought Griot's Garage to Shop NBC?
I loved those shows. Yes, I adored hosting those.
Okay, great A great company, still in business today. And if you remember what I did, and the technology was not there yet, whatever the camera saw in its view, everything was for sale, including the paint on the floor. That's really what I'm still talking about. And it's the same concept, Shawn, that I'm trying to do today. So and we already have licensing agreements in place where, and again, once we finish our merger, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because you'll ask this in a while. Maybe we have a James Bond weekend. And when you're watching the James Bond weekend on the Y networks, it'll be sponsored by a martini, and you can buy the ingredients for the martini, and you can buy the shaker. Maybe Aston Martin is a sponsor. Things that are not typically done can be done, and it's much more subliminal than being in your face. No different than when you're watching America's Got Talent, and there's a Sonic, soft drink cup, at every station.
Good point. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's not in your face. Buy this, and they have, but it's there. It's branding, it's product placement that is there all the time. And I think that is really the future, because as compared to a traditional commercial, you can't fast forward through that stuff because it's embedded in the content.
Well, Marvin, if it's okay with you, we will continue our conversation on the next show. I want to get into your role with the guests, because you have worked firsthand with guests over the years. What makes a good guest? And let's start talking about the Y Networks, which is the project that you're currently working on, because I think people are going to find that to be very interesting. Many would argue that, in fact, the Y Networks is the future of television shopping. So we'll talk about that. Make sure you go to marvinsegel.com for more information, marvinsegel.com. And, of course, Marv's all over social media, so you can find him on the various social media outlets and on the Y Networks, which we'll be chatting about. I hope you will check me out on Twitter at Shawn Wilsie, ShawnWilsie. By the way, I'm on TikTok as well. I never plug my TikTok. Honestly, I don't even know am I S. Wilsie or Shawn Wilsie on TikTok. One of the two. Not much to see there anyways. And on Instagram at S. Wilsie, SWILSIE. Thank you for downloading this edition of our We on the Air. This has been a King Bobby production.
Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such bargains.